San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro is here, and he has been gracious enough to stop by our mixer. We will allow questions from one person and one person only from our chapter, and I've designated that person to be Ray Suarez from PBS, so he'll be able to answer, ask questions to Julian. But first I want to give Julian the opportunity to speak if he wants to say a few words, and then we can open it up to questions from Ray.
Well, first of all, let me thank the Browns for having us in their beautiful home.
My husband likes that because his last name is Beaumont. I like him. We call him Brent Brown. I like that.
Brent Brown. You can see why I'm a bad politician. But thank y'all to Carolyn and Brent for having us in your home. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Brandon, and to the DC chapter of the Hispanic Journalists for having me today, and of course to Ray, whose work I've admired for a long time, and I know was in San Antonio not too long ago. I just want to come and first of all congratulate y'all on all of the success that y'all have had in your career, either as journalists or in public affairs or governmental relations. This weekend of the inauguration is always a weekend where as a nation we sort of step back, you take a breath, you pause, and you reflect on the America of today. And certainly one of the things that has been emphasized that we've seen in spades over these last couple of months since the election was the importance of the Latino community to the prosperity of the United States today and in the future. The fact that it is a growing community. I've said that the great thing about the Latino community is that it is replenishing all of the great things that have made America an economic superpower and the most special country in the world. You know, hard work ethic, faith, aspirational, all of those things that we want for this country in the 21st century that it could ensure continued success. I also know that in every way our society needs to reflect that. We saw that in the election. Latinos made a big difference, and now on issues like comprehensive immigration reform, folks are falling over themselves almost to offer up some sort of solution, which is good. But also it needs to be reflected in the newsrooms of America. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know that that's not always been the case. The fact is that you can't have news folks that are covering the news and talking about great diversity and the need for it, but then when you look at the reporting crew, or you look at the managing editors, or the editorial board directors, or you look at who's on TV in the evening news, or who gets to be on prime time, that not be reflected. So I wanted to come here today, and that's why I took the time to be here, to encourage you to keep going, that your perspective is important, that it's needed, that it is fully reflective of America in the 21st century, and it's making both the news business and our country stronger. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. It's great to be here. What a pleasure it is to see all of you. And we'll do this in English, although I'm perfectly comfortable haciéndolo en castellano, o si quieren podemos hacerlo 50%. Comenzamos las frases en español and we finish in English. English. So whatever you'd like to do, but what a pleasure it is to be here. You know, it's interesting because I was just thinking on the way up here, right before coming, speaking with some colleagues at Telemundo, how I still feel like I'm starting my career and I still feel young, but then I realize that I'm on the way out as far as the generational shift in journalism. And I just feel like I just started, and it's 30 years ago this year that I started in journalism. It'll be 29 years of uninterrupted work in television news. And in those 3 decades, I've seen so much change in journalism. I've seen how much easier it is for Latinos to get into mainstream news. And yet there are huge barriers still that exist for people of color, Latinos, to really break through in the big ways. And there's always the pressure, to Jose Diaz-Balart. God, isn't that a name that can't you make it a little bit more understandable for people that don't live in Latino communities? No. I mean, I guarantee you, I always tell friends that asked me that in the early years, where I was willing to Americanize my name. I guarantee you that for the Indians that were here before, the Spanish names seemed really weird. And nobody asked them, hey, can you change your name there to make it a little bit more understandable to the people who live here? So why should we have to change our names and how we sound in order to fit in? Well, that's a question that I've battled with for 30 years, and I can tell you that it's very difficult sometimes to break through. But the doors are opening more and more. And I really do think that it's our time more than ever. I think that this election was deeply important because you add that to the last census when people intellectually saw the numbers and got it. But then when you see 10 or 11 million people voting, it's more than just understanding it. It's seeing that there are actual results involved with how people can make a difference. And so I feel as though we're in an incredible time now. I think journalism is in danger in many ways because we're pushed more and more towards having ratings, result news. And if that means, the princess of Cambridge's kid is going to be born on the 2nd of June, well, maybe that's not as important as all the hostages being killed. I mean, maybe it's not as important. But the pressure is there always. And so, we can bring our sensitivity and our life experience and our past experiences in a family where we come from and the vicissitudes that we have seen our own family go through. And let that speak out in the meetings with the executives. And hopefully all of us can become executives in one way or another and help guide how the news is presented. But I've got to tell you, it is time that we stop victimizing ourselves and feeling that, oh, woe is me. No, we're 50.5 million strong. We're the fastest growing community in the United States, and it is proof, the 6th of November, that we can actually make a difference in national affairs and international affairs. And so it's no longer, well, I need, no, wait a second. Not only am I having a part in the table, I'll probably own the table soon. And so it's a good time to be a journalist. It's an exciting time to be a journalist. It's also a time where I think we have to recognize that ratings-driven journalism is ever more popular and prevalent. So that balance is a fine one, but I think that with the sensitivity that we have, with the life experiences that we have and what we have experienced through our families, can, I think, equip us very, very well to be able to deal with the future. I'm very excited about it. As a guy who's thinks he's young but is on his way out, generationally speaking. And I'd like to talk to you and exchange ideas with you. I hate hearing myself speak when there are so many people that have much more interesting things to say and questions to ask than I could ever do.
Public service, because and the almost vocation in the sense of the priesthood, a lay priesthood, I think is the term he used. It should be like that. It's not just a job. It's not like doing other jobs. It's a way of life as well as a job. And I hope you bring that sense of mission to it. But also, one thing that he didn't talk about that I want to talk about a bit is loving the craft. Because, yeah, he thinks it's important to advocate for things and it's important to get these issues out, and that's all very true. But you gotta love what you do. If it's going to be a lifetime proposition, if it's going to be something you do from the early days of your working life, and you're going to actually try to retire at it, which I hope to do someday, you got to love it because it's the way of life and the work that gives you a front seat for history, makes you the most interesting person in the room, whatever room you're in, because you actually understand the things that are going on in the world around you, and you're not sort of all at sea like so many of your friends are, who seek you out and say, what is the fiscal cliff anyway? You know because of what you do, because it's your business to know. And you also get to do, frankly, an interesting task, which is to give regular people the ammunition they need to do the work of being a citizen in this country. And I don't mean citizen in the legal sense, to have their papers, but to be someone who is a neighbor and a worker and a taxpayer, and be someone who's involved in the life of the community that they live in. We are essential to that work. Without us, it's all gossip. Without our facts, because we give people the facts that help them make a conclusion about the world they live in and what their place in it is. Without us, it's all bochinche. So love it for the community service stuff and all that, but love it also because it's one of the most interesting. Some days, not as many lately, but some days, I still think somebody's paying me to do this. Somebody actually sends me a check at the end of 2 weeks for doing this thing that I love so much, that I really always wanted to do, and now I'm able to live that out and do it. That privilege, unfortunately, is a dwindling one as organizations cut back and downsize and right-size and rationalize, and though I don't think he took on the spirit of the threat of media consolidation, maybe I'll disagree with him a little bit. It's not at all great. I couldn't believe it when he said it was a great thing because poor people are getting free internet. It's great that poor people are getting free internet. Believe me, Comcast is not cutting back on dividends because they're giving poor people internet. Media consolidation is also narrowing. If you think of the world as 360 degrees of possibilities in storytelling, media consolidation is narrowing that 360 degrees to a smaller arc of what's sayable, what's doable, the stories that are tellable. And when you cross-platform and you want to multi-purpose a single story across 6 platforms, that's 5 other stories that aren't being told to increase the efficiency of a corporation. It's nice. Increasing the efficiency of a corporation is not an all bad thing, but that's not what gets me out of bed in the morning, and I don't think that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. So we're moving through some perilous times in our business right now. It's an open question and a decent question whether there's going to be a news business in the way we've always thought of it in 20 years, the way there was 20 years ago. As our bosses try to figure out day after day how to get people to give them content for free, how are you going to ask to make a living at doing it? When there's a world where there are too many people who are dying to do what we do, and they're willing to do it for nothing, how can you pay a mortgage? How can you save for your kid to go to college? How can you do all the things that journalists once upon a time might have taken for granted? So there are great promises and exciting things happening, made possible by the toys that we use to do our work. Absolutely. It's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable that I can pick this thing out of my pocket and watch in HD a story that I did 2 weeks ago. It's incredible. But at the same time, there are knuckleheads sitting in offices in New York trying to figure out how to show these things on 66-inch screens and 2-inch screens at the same time. And they're guessing, they're hoping they're right. And you will be, depending on what media you're working in and under what circumstances, you will be the downstream recipients of their genius ideas. And they're not always so smart. So just be ready, be nimble, be cross-trained, be ready to work across media, be ready to get another job, always. If the last 10 years has taught us anything, it's always have your resume ready, always have your clip file ready, always have, not that anybody has a tape anymore, not physical tape, but always have the digital equivalent of your tape ready, because it doesn't matter as much anymore whether you're doing a good job. And that's a scary thing. If I was 25 or 30 in this business, it would be a much less secure feeling, because I'd know that if they whack my whole division, it might have nothing to do with what I bring to the work. It might have nothing to do with my cleverness or creativity. It just has to do with taking care of a cost center on a corporate balance sheet. So trust your bosses as far as you can throw them and no further. That is not don't like them, that's not don't work with them, but understand that everybody's got pressure from somebody up above them, pushing down. And sometimes you're just the recipient of that downward push. It's a wonderful way to make a living. It does change people's lives. It changes the things that governments do. It changes the injustices that are being perpetrated on people who have no other defense and who don't have the influence or the strength or the muscle to take care of these things themselves. That's absolutely true. But it's also should be fun and it should be something that you're proud of doing, and it should be something that makes you glad you chose to do this instead of being a mechanic or an accountant or a school teacher, you know. I don't know how else to say it. We're really lucky people that we get to do this and make a living at it, but that doesn't mean that it's not full of dangers, full of challenges, and for the next 10 years at least, full of changes that we can't possibly predict. So, good luck to all of you. Happy Inauguration Day and King Birthday tomorrow. And it's great to be with you all. And remember, renew your membership. Renew your membership. Look, in 8 weeks I'm going to be 56 years old. It's unlikely any of you are going to hire me. But you are going to hire each other, those of you who aren't 56 years old. And the chapter creates a very important vessel to keep in each other's faces and network and be aware of places where people are moving and getting new jobs and where there are openings. That's really, really important. And the chapter does very important work in making sure you're connected to the wider journalism community in Washington and connected to each other. So renew your membership, pay your damn dues, and you know, don't make me come after you.